two, one.
Welcome to Toy Business Unboxed, your gateway to the secrets of the toy industry. Here, Jason Shea, a toy entrepreneur and expert in the field.
Every product we develop is really inspired by some of the real life experience that we have with our son.
60% of all toys last year were sold on Amazon, which is incredible.
Be passionate about it because it's a road, it's a journey.
Like when you have an idea that you think is like gonna somewhat like change the world, make things better, I'd say go for it.
We'll guide you through the enchanting world of toy design, marketing, and manufacturing. Now let the unboxing begin.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Toy Business Unboxed. I'm your host, Jason Shea, and today we'll be exploring stories and insight behind one of the store owners, Scott, who is owner of Castle Perilous Game and Book, and which is one of the largest game and comic store in Illinois since 1990s. And
1990, not the largest. I wish, but no. We're the largest in Southern Illinois.
So, and I think you sell everything from board games to role-playing games to comics and collectibles, and you have decades of experience in the retail game industry. And I'm really excited to uncover what we're going to discuss today because, like I mentioned, pre-interview, you are my first guest in that actually own a retail store that dedicated to board games, and I think there's a lot of interesting insight that you can share with our audience. So, first of all, I guess, can you share with our audience what inspired you to start the store back then?
Certainly. Well, we started off as a role-playing game store. I played Dungeons and Dragons when I was in college, and it was a fascinating game. When I decided to go back to get my master's degree at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, I realized that no game store in the area. There was one store that had about 12 feet worth of board games on the shelf, and I had some money from my previous job, decided to invest that into into opening up a store. I found a small storefront that I could afford for at the time. It was $250 a month.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, well, you could open up a store on a shoestring back then. I started with about $25,000. You could not open up anything like a decent business for that kind of money today. And so it was a little hole in the wall place. It was about maybe 500 square feet.
Okay.
Tiny compared to today's stores. But we served a niche in the community. We started off focusing on role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons and supplies for that. Then as demand increased, we expanded into miniature games, and then when Magic the Gathering hit the market in '93, we moved into and added on collectible card games. We didn't really get big into board games until around 2000, 2002.
Okay.
So, and then we got into toys far later than that because it was we were looking for additional products to add to our marketing mix. So we started adding toys probably about 2012.
Oh, well, okay, I see. And since you have been in the industry for so long, I guess based on your observation, how has the retail, I guess, board game and gaming industry overall has changed since you originally opened the store over 30 years ago?
Okay, well, there are two. Well, at the time that I opened, and until about the late 80s, early 90s, there were two basic styles of board games. There was the American style board game, which is exemplified by Monopoly. They involve they're fairly random. If you're playing Monopoly, you roll the dice dictate what you do. You can make decisions once you land on the board, but you have no real control about where you were going. You are as likely to land on Marvin Gardens or go to jail as you are on Boardwalk or Pryor Park Place.
That's true.
So dice control it. In Euro style games, there is much less luck, and much more strategy.
I
in
see.
the game. Settlers of Catan, or Catan as it's known. Are you familiar with Catan?
Yes, 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 I do. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I played that
So
before.
Catan was probably Catan, no, not probably. Well, there were less war games
Hmm.
like Axis and Allies, Tactics, Waterloo,
Hmm.
Napoleon at Leipzig, that had been created back during the 1950s.
Hmm.
And those were games that relied more heavily on strategy and how you placed your counters on the table. But they were a very niche market because you had to want to refight ancient wars, or even modern ones,
Hmm.
before getting into that. Catan was the first of the Euro style heavy strategy, less dice reliant. There is still some randomness in Catan with rolling the dice to see which resources are generated each year or each turn, but your movement you control completely. And that opened up the flood of what we call Euro games to come into the US. And after that we had more games like Carcassonne, Ticket
Hmm.
to Ride,
Yeah,
All
yeah,
World coming into the market.
sure.
And they have, so stores like mine generally are going to focus on the Euro style board games, the heavy strategy
Mm.
board games, whereas big box retailers like Walmart and Target, it will focus more heavily on the Amera style board games.
That's very interesting, and I see there's a lot of like resurgence in the board games. Like,
Oh,
what kind of
absolutely.
trend have you been noticing recently in your store?
Oh, well, we've seen a huge upsurge in board games. Board games used to be back around 2003, or less than 1% of our sales. We didn't even we dedicated one shelf
Oh, wow. Okay.
for board games.
Yeah.
Now we have got probably about 30 to 40 feet of shelving devoted to different board games.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
we devote a lot. We devote similar amount of space to role playing games.
Hmm.
We we devote probably 60 feet of games
Hmm.
supplies, miniatures games.
Hmm.
So it has grown significantly. But at the same time, since we are a retailer, we don't want to focus all of our energy on one area. But
Mm.
I know of
Yeah.
stores
Yeah.
at the show I was telling you about that I was just at this past weekend. There
Yes.
were stores that were telling me that 25 to 50% of their sales came from Magic the Gathering,
Oh,
Pokemon, and yeah, that's a collectible card
wow.
games. That's
Yeah.
a ridiculously high number
I see.
or
Do you
percentage.
still sell a lot of Pokemon cards nowadays?
Not as much as we did
Okay.
back
Okay.
in 2002, 2022, 2023.
I see.
During that period,
It was a boom. Okay.
there was a huge boom in it. People, speculators were coming in. They would clean my shelves out whenever I got a shipment in. They were even
Yeah.
planting tracking devices on trucks that were servicing Walmarts and Target stores, so that
Man,
they
that's
could,
insane. Okay.
because each
Yeah.
Walmart store would get a certain amount of the Pokemon
Pokemon
product,
cards.
and
Yeah.
then they go to the next store. So the speculators would go in, follow the
Mm.
tracker, go in. As soon as they put stuff on the shelf, they clean everything out,
Clean it up. Okay.
and then
That's
use their
insane. Okay.
GPSs to track to the next location,
Oh, whoa. Okay.
and then clean it out as well. We
Mm,
don't see that anymore. It's died down, started dying off in about 2023
I see. Okay.
and 2025. Interestingly, at least what I'm hearing from a lot of stores in the industry is that kids are not playing Pokemon. They are buying the card packs, they're collecting the cards, and they're trading it other people, but they don't play the card game.
Really? Well,
Yeah,
that's weird. Okay. Yeah.
I
Because,
thought so. Well, it appears it is
yeah.
more the appeal of collecting, because we get in kids six,
Mm,
7, 8 years of age buying
yeah.
packs, and when I ask them what type of deck they like to play, if they
Mhm.
want to run a water deck or a grass, they have no idea. They collect and trade the cards. They don't play.
That's very different in Japan. I don't know. Have you visited a actual Pokemon center in Japan?
I have not.
They have tournament in
Oh,
Japan
absolutely.
doing Pokemon like battles and card
We
tournament.
used to run tournaments here. We would get
Uh-huh.
back in the early 2000s. We'd have 40 kids in here playing
Mhm.
Pokemon because it was much more focused on the play of the game. They traded cards, sure, but they all but they
So
played.
that's the fun part about the
I
card,
thought so,
not
but
just
recently
collecting
it's
it.
been more about the collecting.
Oh.
I try to do searches on
Mhm.
YouTube for
Mhm.
looking to stream people playing Pokemon in the store. Everything I find is people cracking open boxes and talking about
Oh.
what the value of the cards is in it. Nothing about
Mhm.
actual
Okay,
what's a
that's
good deck or streaming people playing Pokemon.
I see. That's a very interesting transition.
And that's what I'm hearing from other stores as well. They're,
Oh.
with exceptions, of course. You can never generalize, or you can always find exceptions. But in general, most stores I'm talking to are telling me that most of their Pokemon is focused on people coming in and buying, kids
Collecting.
coming in and buying it, but not playing
Not
the game.
playing.
At least not in the store.
I see. I see. Okay, that's a very interesting observation. And I want to change the topic to
Sure.
Kickstarter because in the recent Kickstarter, there's also a huge boom in board games. You'll see a lot of the successful campaign that raised $500,000, $1 million, all in the board game
Cosgrave just
category.
raised $14 million.
Yeah, that sounds crazy.
It's a
One that
role-playing
raised a lot.
game based on
So,
the works of the author Brandon Sanderson.
mhm.
Brotherwise Games launched it. It is the largest Kickstarter ever funded in the
Mhm.
gaming industry
Yeah.
and third largest Kickstarter ever.
Yeah, so that actually lead me to an interesting question. So, as a retail store owner, how do you decide which Kickstarter board game to even considering purchasing for your store?
Buzz. Do I hear people talking about it? For
Okay.
one, but it
Yeah.
can't be like we backed the Brandon Sanderson one
Okay.
because it's going to be popular.
Yeah.
But a mid-tier one, well, for one thing, as a retailer, I need a retailer level. If
Hmm.
we put Kickstarter up there, if I am going to pay the same price as an individual who is backing the Kickstarter and getting the game themselves, there's no reason for me to support a Kickstarter. So
True.
I
True.
need
True.
a retailer level that gives me multiple copies. Now, in exchange for a lower price for it, I
Mhm.
expect to buy more copies of the game. The
Mm.
Kickstarter I backed for the Cosgrave RPG, I'm
Yeah.
getting four copies of the basic set of the set.
Oh, that's it? Only four? Okay.
Well, that's all. It's a $400 Kickstarter, so, and I
Oh.
don't know, so I'm going to have to sell them for around $200 a piece. I have no
Mm.
idea how many people are willing to shell out $200 for a role playing book.
Yeah, that's
Role
pretty
playing
high.
book,
Yeah.
that's
Ticket
high.
item.
When you
Yeah.
look
That's
at the
very
Dungeons
high
and
price point.
Dragons, the new edition of Dungeons and Dragons just released,
Yeah.
it's $50 for that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And
Real people,
$100, what
two
is
hundred
it
dollars
more?
for a raw
Yeah,
set of role playing stuff.
yeah, it's quite
That's
a bit.
kind of hard, especially
Mhm,
there was a game called Gloomhaven that was kickstarted. It
mhm.
was a really popular one, and even Gloomhaven was $150, and it came in this large chest. It was
Oh,
about a little less than a meter long
interesting.
and
Okay, okay.
about a quarter of a meter wide. It
Mhm.
weighed several kilos,
Oh, whoa,
so it was
it's
a heavy
massive.
sucker.
So,
And yeah,
mhm.
and that was only $150.
So do
So,
you like just like kind of how do you get in the knowing of okay what is trending on Kickstarter? What are the most
well,
up and
we look
coming
at
board games?
there's a website called Board Game Geek,
Okay, okay, I
and a
heard of
lot of
that one.
people. Are you familiar with Board? Have you
Yes,
heard?
I heard of them before.
They
Yes.
have what's called the hotness on there and wish
Oh,
list.
okay.
So we look at that to see what people are really anticipating.
Mhm.
Also, a lot of Kickstarters push their product through social media. So I kept
Yeah, yeah.
when Cosmere was funding, I kept
Mhm.
seeing posts soliciting it every time I logged into Instagram or Facebook.
Mm,
So
mhm, mhm,
they
mhm.
make sure And now, but on the downside is there's so many Kickstarters out there,
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, it is a
and
lot.
a lot of them, like I won't fund a comic book Kickstarter anymore
Oh, I see. I see.
because
I see.
people
Yeah.
who really want the comic book are going to buy it through the Kickstarter. That's a
Hmm.
problem with gaming Kickstarters. But there's enough people who decide later on that they want the comic book, they want the game, that I
Yeah.
can probably sell something like that at 4 copies. I'm certainly not going to try to bring in 24 copies of a book that's going to have to sell for $200.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a very risky investment as well.
Bingo.
So yeah, yeah, yeah. So and actually, since you mentioned about comic, you have something very unique, which is you also sell comic book
Yeah,
as well as
not
board games and
that
other stuff.
unique.
Uh, yeah.
Most comic shops at least
Mhm.
sell some comics. It's part, or most comic shops sell some gaming products. Usually, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, because
Pokemon, right?
collectible card games don't take up they don't have a huge footprint.
I see. I
I
see.
can
How
put
do
a
you
box.
balance your inventory between the categories then?
Well, we're fairly diversified. We are roughly about 10%, 10 to 12% board games.
Hmm.
Uh, on a big release, we'll see collectible card games like Magic and Pokemon hit 25%, but
Okay.
usually it's around 10 to 12%.
Oh, okay.
Toys are generally 5 to 8%.
Oh, yeah, because you are not mainly a toy store, and I
We're not
think the
mainly,
audience that you are targeting is almost more of an adult audience that's
it
buying
is an
book games,
adult
right?
audience.
Yeah, not
Or
really kids.
if
So.
there was a presentation at Astor that called them kidults.
Kiddos, yes, 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 kiddos. That's actually a word for it.
Yeah, a lot of our customers
Yeah.
are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s coming in to buy games for their families. We've been in business long enough that I have
Mhm.
people who bought stuff from us, usually Pokemon, back in the 1990s,
Oh,
and they're
well.
bringing their own kids in here now and
Oh,
introducing their
interesting.
second generation to the hobby.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I guess the my next question is, what challenge have you faced over the last 30 years with the rise of all the gigantic online marketplaces like Amazon, and now Walmart is also coming up with their own online marketplaces?
Oh,
How
absolutely. And
does that impact your business, and how do you adapt to that changes?
it's certainly not as easy as it was before Amazon.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, I'm doing far better than I did before Amazon.
Oh.
Part of the problem is, or part of the situation is, well, with Amazon, if I want to play Catan or Carcassonne or
Hmm.
Ticket to Ride,
Yeah.
I can do it on an online platform, but that's not nearly as much fun as doing it to in person to person.
With
And Amazon is good, but they're not going to get it to you that night. I
That's true.
have
Yeah.
got the product. You can walk in, you
Hmm.
can buy it, and walk out with it that day if you have the itch to do it. We also do a very good job of curating. If you buy
Mm.
on Amazon, you
Mhm.
don't have anybody to talk with
True.
about the product.
Good.
You
Yeah, 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 yeah. And do you also allow your customer to like do a test play at your
Oh,
store?
sure. We have a game library that they
Okay.
can play games here, or they can rent games to take home with them. If they buy the game, we discount them their rental price off the price of the game.
I see, I see, I see. And what are some of the like the strategy that you do nowadays in 2024 to bring more people to you into your store?
Well, advertising that's always the big problem. How do I get more people in? We have got about 1,000, 1,500 regular customers
Yeah.
spread out, or we get in about 30, between 40 to 200 people a day
Oh,
on
okay.
average.
Okay.
So it's
Okay. Okay.
so that's
Mm.
not a bad. It's not bad. Great. It's not great foot traffic, but it's certainly not bad.
I see. I see. And
So
is it
that's
100% retail? Do you do a little bit of online
Oh yeah,
sales?
we sell online, but most of what we sell online is collectible stuff because the problem with online
Hmm.
selling is that it is very easy to discount.
Yeah. Yeah.
Products
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
online are commodities,
True. True.
so
True.
no
True.
differentiate. The only way so we differentiate by putting hard to find items up in our store.
Hmm.
I have kicked around the item the idea of putting an online store with newer products, because the much like here, the
Mhm.
benefit is we curate the
Yeah,
product
yeah, yeah,
selection.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We have got okay stuff that you probably have never heard of.
Yeah.
Most of my customers have never heard of squishables, for example.
Mhm.
You're familiar with the squishable line of
Yeah,
plush?
yeah, 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 yeah. They are huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So most of my customers are not familiar. They come in here, ooh, this is so cool. Loch Ness Monster, plush Mothman, plush
Mhm.
wizards and reapers. They haven't seen this stuff before. And they're not going to go and they won't. So, and that's the thing about
Uh,
buying online. If you don't
yeah.
know it exists, it's really hard to find.
Yeah, that's
Walking into a
true.
brick and mortar store, you're getting exposed to games, toys. Most of my customers will never have heard of your line of toys.
True, 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 true. Yeah.
So if I have
Yeah.
it in the store,
Mhm.
then they come in, because they're going to get exposed to it, they're going to know about it, or they
Mhm.
have a chance to learn about it,
That's true.
which
That's
they
true.
won't.
Yeah.
And so that is the thing, you get exposed. It's
Yeah.
much like just flipping. Do you read magazines?
I read some toy magazine. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
toy magazine.
Yeah.
You're flipping through those pages. You're going to be exposed to things
Mhm.
that you. Whereas if you go searching for it online, you're only finding stuff that you're looking for.
Mhm. Mhm.
Going into a store, reading a magazine, you're finding information you were not. You had no idea was out there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
customers have no idea that squishable. A lot of them had no idea squishables exist.
Mhm.
As a result of going to the Astra show, we brought in the Palm Pals from Aurora.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Customers never knew anything about those.
I
And
see.
brought them in about a month and a half ago.
Mhm.
We've sold through about half our order just because,
Mhm.
oh, this is so cool.
Yeah. 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 For sure.
So that we
Yeah.
curate and we give the customers the opportunity to be exposed to products that they may never have heard about
And
before, known
and the
about
other
before.
thing that's unique that you can do that Amazon can never do is doing like a small community event only
Oh,
for the
sure.
local
Yeah,
community.
you can't do in-store gaming. Tonight we have a group of people back in the back playing Dungeons and Dragons. We
Okay.
also have another group of people playing the Disney Lorcana card game.
Oh, okay. I haven't played that
So,
one before. Okay. Okay.
but it's another collectible card game. This one has a Disney theme about it.
I see. I see. I see. I actually went to a few local meetup here in Phoenix. It's
Hmm.
just meetup of people, a whole bunch of us gathered together and bring our
Sure,
own board games and play.
cool,
So it's always fun. It's a different aspect. I think, especially the board game, is all about socializing with other
absolutely.
people, right?
Oh yeah,
And that is really hard to recreate virtually.
hard
Uh,
to recreate online.
yeah, 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 yeah. I agree.
Yeah, you
And
can do it, but it's not nearly as much fun as defeating your opponent face to face.
of course. Yeah, it's very, very different, the dynamic.
Yeah.
And I think was as part of your store, I guess, do you also use a lot of like social media trying to promote the store and try to
Not as
keep
much
the
as I should.
okay,
We've got
okay.
a Instagram channel. We've got Instagram. We use Facebook. We use Twitter X.
Mhm.
I haven't used TikTok yet or YouTube
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because it's just I don't know if it's or we have some. I let some of this. Or I have some of the staff on monitoring Discord channels,
Yeah.
but I leave it to people who are more savvy in it. I don't
Mm.
really want to start up a YouTube channel or a Discord or a TikTok because there's
Yeah.
so many of them out there.
There's
How
a
do you
lot.
break
Yeah.
out?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that is the problem that you have to deal with. I mean, your podcast.
Hmm.
How do you get people to find your podcast?
We have an email list of the subscriber, about
Yep.
2,000
Cool.
currently. So
And
we
how many
email
of them
them.
actually listen to the podcast?
It depends on the episode. I would say usually we have a few hundred people
Okay, cool.
download and
Hi
watch.
guys, everybody should listen to this
Yeah.
episode of the podcast.
But again, our podcast is very
Very
specific.
specific.
It's a
Yeah,
B2B business podcast, not a
sure.
consumer based podcast. So
Yep.
I could never be a Joe Rogan, like Joe Rogan have a millions.
Oh yeah, sure you could. You can become the Joe Rogan of the toy industry.
It's a
Do you
different
want to
type of
become the Joe
podcast.
Rogan? I don't know.
Maybe I
But
need to talk about more controversial topic, then maybe it will
absolutely,
go
you should
viral.
start denying things. Okay. Monopoly. Start arguing that Monopoly is the greatest board game ever made. See what sort of controversy you get out of that.
Yeah. I think sometimes you need to be controversial for the
And
podcast
attract
to really
attention.
get share. Yeah, to attract attention for sure. So and
So
and I think as we're kind of writing down today's interview, I know my team did some research about you. Also write for a few article. I think it's called
I write for
Rolling for.
a website called icv2.com.
Yeah, and I think your column is called Rolling for
Rolling for
Initiative.
Initiative,
Can you
which is
talk a little
like
bit about your
um,
writing and your work over there?
yeah, it's about rolling for that's a phrase you hear a lot in role playing games. Roll for initiative. So
Okay.
they used to have a couple of columnists on there that wrote about the comic book industry, but I don't know if you've had a chance to look at ICV2, but it focuses almost equally on comics and games.
I
And they
see.
didn't have anyone writing about games or business for that
Oh,
matter. So I
I
asked
see.
them about, God, it must have been back around 2011,
Oh,
if
wow,
they
that's
would let me
amazing.
write a weekly column. And originally I did it free.
Mhm.
And then eventually they liked the material I wrote enough that they started paying me.
Oh, okay. That's a good side gig. So
Yeah, it's
that's
not
not bad.
not a huge
Yeah,
amount, but I've been doing it
yeah,
every week. I think
yeah.
I maybe missed 1 week since 2011.
Oh, wow. So you've been doing that for quite a while. What do you usually write about?
Usually, I try to write about either new releases in the gaming industry.
Okay.
Last week was the
Mhm,
gifts, so I pointed out
mhm,
some potential good gifts.
mhm.
Unfortunately, that really doesn't attract a lot of attention.
Oh, really?
People would rather hear one controversial issue,
Mm.
not Joe Rogan level of controversy, but
Yeah.
in the gaming industry is monetizing table space.
Oh,
We
monetizing table space. Tell me more. Yeah.
Okay, well, we a lot of game stores. Yeah, I don't know, like the board game store that you went to a board game meetup, right?
Yes, I
Was
did.
that
Yeah.
in a store or was that at a friend's house?
It was at a bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did that bar make money off of you while you were in there playing games?
Yeah, because we all ordered beers and drinks and food.
Oh, goody, we had a bunch of drunks playing board games.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes, that was fun.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, most board game stores don't
Yeah.
have bars.
Oh, true.
So we sell
True.
snacks. There are some. I was in a board game cafe over the
Okay.
weekend, and they
Okay.
they had a space for they were selling sandwiches and bread
Mhm.
and coffee. But in general, the controversy is if you don't have a place to sell like liquor,
Yeah.
or you don't have a cafe, but you set up tables for people to play at, should you make those tables free to play at, or should you charge a table fee to play at
Oh.
them? Because
Hmm.
people are using your space, especially if they bring say a board game in from outside your location. They come
Oh.
in, they bring in their own copy of Carcassonne, they set
Yeah.
it up on your table, they
Yeah.
play it, they pack up and they leave. They've
Yeah.
used your space, they haven't spent any money in your business.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do you do? Do you let people just come in and play like you
Hmm.
did at the bar? Or
Yeah.
do you charge them a fee? Okay, you want to use our tables, it's going to be $5 to use them for say 3 hours per person.
Oh.
Yeah, because do you let the table sit empty, or do you? But you're not getting, but you're not, but you're getting, and you're trying to use them to generate revenue, or you try to generate revenue off of them and charge and see if you can get people to pay for the use of the tables. Currently, in the back, the Dungeons and Dragons game we're running, I compensate the DM for running it, and we charge them $5 a person to play every week because
Hmm.
that's one way we're trying to monetize the table space. Now I have to pay the game master, but as long as we're making more money from the table fees than we are the compensation we're paying him out. On the other hand, the Disney Lorcana players back there don't pay anything because in general we make enough money off of them, the cards and packs they buy for the card game on a regular basis, that we've determined that the income generated is worth letting them use the table space at no additional charge. For a while, we were charging them $5 a week, but we decided to drop that fee since we kept seeing steady sales of Lorcana. Similarly, we host Magic the Gathering games and Pokemon.
Do you also provide some like drinks for them to like?
No, we do not. They have to buy their own drinks. I'm not providing them drinks. They can buy. I'm providing them free table space. I am providing a scheduled time for them to come in and show the place. We schedule Lorcana play. We schedule Magic the Gathering play. We schedule board game, and we have certain time slots set aside for those. So if somebody comes in, they know they can find somebody who's going to play Magic, who's going to play Lorcana, who's going to play board games.
Got it.
So, but generally, we don't charge for that. If I have to pay somebody to host an event, then we charge for that.
I see. So looking ahead, where do you see the game retail industry heading to in the next few years?
Okay, I think we're going to see more AI created games, and right now there's a big controversy. Is it ethically appropriate to use AI generated art in gaming products? Is it okay to have rule books written using artificial intelligence? Is it okay to create a comic using AI art and AI writing? So that's going to be we've got lawsuits right now suing companies, the AI Chat GPT, for example, suing them for appropriating art and writing from the web to add into their model. So that's going to be a major controversy. Amazon seems to be declining. It's still an important competitor, but we are seeing a decline in it. We're seeing more manufacturers putting MAP, minimum advertised pricing, into place. We'll see if that has any. Are you familiar with the concept of MAP?
Yeah, map pricing. Yes.
Right, okay. We're seeing more people putting that in the game industry. We're seeing a movement to net pricing among some companies. So that it makes it harder for people to advertise discounts on the internet.
For sure.
I think we're going to see, especially among mid-level game publishers, we're going to see increased relying on crowdfunding to fund their games, even though the top tier companies are not going to be relying on crowdfunding. It apparently is mid and lower tier companies that are.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of low tiers is relying on crowdfunding. Yes, and I talked to a few of them. So yeah,
and a lot of them, especially, I don't know how it is in the toy industry, but in the game industry, it is fire and forget. We fund our game, we put it out, we get our money, we take money, and then we launch our next Kickstarter.
Yeah.
We don't make product for retail. If you want the game, if you're a retailer and you want the game, you have to back the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
That's problematic. That's a problem.
Then that's not a sustainable business model either. Yeah. So
because all you have to have is one misfired Kickstarter campaign, and you're in trouble.
Yeah. For sure. So anyway, thank you so much for being on our podcast interview today. Where can people find you online?
People can find me online at castleperilous.com on Twitter, at Castle Perilous Games on Facebook, at Castle Perilous on Instagram, or they can reach us at castleperilousgames at gmail.com, or do a search for Castle Perilous on the interwebs.
Got it.
We've been in business since 1990. We've had the website up since the early 90s, which is also a problem because we had a one of the reasons you should have control of your own website, why I like websites instead of, and I'm digressing here a bit, but why I like websites over social media is Facebook, Instagram, TikTok all dictate how your posts, and what's what I'm going to say, a lot of stores in general rely heavily on them. If you
Yeah.
control your own website, you get to control what it looks like. So they
Yeah,
can
yeah.
find us at castleperilous.com, castleperilous@gmail.com.
Got it. Well, thank you again for being on the
Thanks for
show.
having me.
Yeah, and for our listeners, thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Toy Business Unboxed podcast. We hope you enjoy the conversation and find it insightful and inspiring. If you
And
like what you Yeah, and if you like what you have heard, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. We really appreciate your support and would love it if you leave us a review and share the podcast with your friend and colleague. For more resource, tips, and latest update in the toy industry, visit our website at toy-launch.com. Join the conversation and connect with us on social media using hashtag #ToyBusinessUnbox, and we'll love to hear your feedback and suggestion for future episode. Until next time, keep innovating, keep creating, keep bringing joys to toys. And this is Jason Shea signing off on Toy Business Unbox podcast, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much, everyone.